On this episode, we chat with our old friend Phra Pandit about his daily life as a monk.
So if you're curious about what it's like to live the pious, minimalist, but still very interesting life that a monk does, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 looking for some vitamin D via sunshine, and instead ended up staying to give people some vitamin G via podcast.
Ooh, I like that, vitamin G. That could be your hip hop name.
That's right, my rap name, Vitamin G, yo.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand under a 1-year teaching contract 19 and 3/4 years ago, and I fell in love with wearing the same clothes all year round.
Like, really? You're not being ironic or anything?
Nope, that's it. I'm just being straight. I like it. I mean, where I grew up, it's like you got it probably at least 3 sets of clothes, like summer, winter, and in between. So it's kind of cool just to wear the same thing all year round. What can I say?
That's a good point. I remember as a kid, my mom would say that. All right, time to change into the fall wardrobe. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I got to do work.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Anyway, we want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Kun Arm, who supports us at the show's shout-out level. Stick around after we're done talking with our friend Phra Pandit on what day-to-day life is like living as a monk in a Thai temple to hear why Arm is going to be putting on a live rock show at our next Bangkok podcast meetup.
That's right, baby.
And before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about the changing environment in Thailand as it reacts to the coronavirus, including provincial lockdowns, helicopter governance, and most horrifying of all, a 10-day ban on alcohol sales. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
Yeah, and now actually, during this time, we're all stuck inside and probably bored out of our minds. Patrons are getting even more than normal because me and Ed and some of our various awesome friends have been putting in some overtime to make some bonus shows that go out with no schedule, completely unplanned. It's just if we find someone free, we get together and we have a conversation that has nothing to do about corona or viruses or anything like that, and just is centered around stories and feedback and reminiscence and laughter about why Bangkok is such a rad city. So we put one out already, and we got another one coming out very soon, and probably we'll have another 2 or 3 more. I guess depending on how long this whole thing goes on. But
wait a minute, Craig.
What?
That's insane. Are you telling me our patrons get even more now?
You sound like one of those bed commercial guys. Like, I'm Crazy Eddie, and we're giving away bonus shows.
That's right.
That's
I am
right.
Crazy Eddie.
You are,
yeah. Bonus. So there's a bonus to the bonus if you become a patron.
Right. And we hope we're doing it just for fun because we hope that they take your mind off of everything going on. So like I said, we don't talk about corona or anything like that. We just sort of sit down and have fun, talk about Bangkok and random stuff with some.
We tell some old Bangkok stories, classic experiences over the years.
I'm still laughing at that story John told about how that woman got really angry at him and went into a 7-Eleven to get a bottle to come out and hit him with. And as she came out of the 7-Eleven, she was sort of emptying the Coke bottle into the street, running after him, and he took off. Anyway, you'll have to listen to the bonus shows for funny stories like that.
Classic.
But, good stuff for our patrons. And, speaking of patrons, Ed, I forgot to mention this on last week's show because last week our patron shout out was to our buddy Lee Conti, and he was actually our 200th patron.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Lee. You are our main man. Last weekend, this week you get a special extra shout out. But I thought it was a big deal when we passed 100 patrons. That was with our friend Maria, who lives in Moscow. And now we're up to 200, so that's great.
Wait, is that that's the Maria that we met?
Yeah, the one that brought that incredible, bountiful bag of Russian vodka and chocolate.
Maria is great. Maria is great. She brought us all kinds of goodies.
I know, that was a good weekend after she unloaded that stuff on us. So, man, those Russians, they know how to snack and drink, that's for sure.
They sure do.
But Lee, thank you again. 200 patrons, that's good. Our little family is growing, and we love each and every one of you.
Yes, we do.
Even if you don't bring us vodka. And before we get into the main show, we actually wanted to mention something kind of serious here. We do want to mention this is a very good cause, and I would like everyone to take a second to listen to this. Now, Ed, you and me are lucky. We have the lifestyle that during this quarantine or lockdown or whatever you want to call it, we are able to stay home and work, and we have a pretty comfortable lifestyle. We bitch and complain about it still, but all things considered, we have it pretty cushy. Wouldn't you agree?
Agreed, yes.
Well, there is a lot of people in Bangkok and Thailand who do not. They are not. They do not have the option to stay home and work from home. They have to work. We're talking about people in the markets, in the wet markets, people, transporting goods and loading shelves and stuff like that. A lot of them live at or below the poverty line, and things are not great for them right now. So, my buddy Adam is managing a campaign called COVID Relief. And COVID Relief is a coalition of organizations that have banded together to help people through the COVID-19 pandemic. The coalition includes the Sati Foundation, Scholars for Sustenance, and Urban Studies Lab, with support from Bangkok 1899 and the Thai Health Volunteers Foundation. They are working in coordination with the Thai Health Volunteers to distribute masks, soap, hand sanitizers, and basic foodstuffs to the most vulnerable groups in Bangkok. For every 300 baht you donate, you can provide packages consisting of sanitation items and food supplies for a family of 4.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really good cause, and I've known Adam for a long time. He's a really great guy, total straight shooter, and he's just one of those guys, he just likes to help people. And he's doing a really good job here, so for 300 baht, you can help out a family. In fact, Ed, I don't know if I've told you this yet, but I just used our Bangkok podcast credit card. We ourselves donated 2,000 baht towards COVID relief.
Nice. So, yay me.
You, I didn't even tell you, and you've already done all the work. So
I'm so proud of myself.
So listeners, please, if you can, head to facebook.com/groups/COVID Relief Bangkok, or just go to Facebook and search for COVID Relief BKK. 300 baht, it's nothing. Throw down 1,000 baht if you can, 500 baht if you can, whatever you can, and you'll help these people that are having a rough time right now, struggling through this really, really unfortunately stupid, ridiculous situation that we all find ourselves in.
Yeah, props to Adam, man.
Yeah, huge big ups for Adam, and a big shout out for COVID Relief and everyone who's involved in helping these people. So listeners, if you can, go to Facebook and search for COVID Relief BKK. We'll have a link in our show notes, and do what you can to help everyone, because we're all in this together. And unless we all help each other, we're not going to get through in very good shape. So there we go.
For sure.
On this episode, we are happy to be joined by our friend Phra Pandit, who has been a monk in Thailand for 20 odd years. So I went up to Phra Pandit's temple a while ago, and I sat down with him to hear what it's actually like for a monk to live at a temple. I figured a lot of people right now are spending a lot of time indoors, maybe self-isolating or living by themselves or in small groups. So I actually figured this might be a pretty relevant episode to listen to.
Right.
To hear Phra Pandit's thoughts on his pious minimalist lifestyle. So he discussed his daily schedule, what keeps him busy, some misconceptions people have around what it's like being a monk, and some surprising things about technology. And believe it or not, Ed, even monk cliques, which apparently are a thing in any human social group, no matter how pious you are. So here is a very interesting conversation that I recently had with our friend Phra Pandit. All right, we are back with our returning-est guest ever, our old friend Phra Pandit, who has been a monk in Thailand for 20 plus years, 25 years, and knows a lot about being a monk in Thailand and all the foibles and obstacles and benefits of living such a life, which is what we're going to talk about today. So, Phra Pandit, welcome back to our show.
Hey.
And very lackadaisical of you. How's it going? What's up? So, we are currently sitting in your quarters, your residence, your room. And
my little palace.
Your little palace?
3 meters by 4 meters with a tiny attached bathroom.
It's a 3 meter by 4 meter room. We're sitting on the wooden floor. There's a couple of appliances, a bunch of books, lots of bookshelves.
Where do you think I sleep?
You probably sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a mat that I can't see, I'm assuming, somewhere. Or is it this green pillow beside me?
Well, that's a meditation cushion, but yeah, I can lean against that.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a very austere lifestyle.
Sometimes I hang upside down from the ceiling like a bat. It's one of our practices.
Right, okay. I can see the hooks in your feet. But this is a very typically austere lifestyle. I think what a lot of Westerners would think of a Buddhist monk. So I wanted to get into a little bit about what your experience is like, what the average monk would have to do in Thailand. What are your visa situations like? What is your day-to-day life like? What are some funny or strange issues you have to deal with that people might not know about?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, all of you listeners probably live in condos. You probably eat Western food. You probably have a reasonable salary and reasonable lifestyle. You've all seen a lot of things that I've not seen in Bangkok and Thailand, Pat Pong areas and all of these things. You were talking about the amount of water that massage.
You're not missing much.
The amount of water that massage parlors use. All of these things I don't know about. When I ordained as a monk, I came here specifically to ordain. So I was in Bangkok for like 2 days, and then I was shipped up country to Ratchaburi province, and there I took ordination with my preceptor, who's one of the most phenomenal men I ever met, and really lived without support, because in Thailand, you're supposed to be, when you ordain, you're supposed to be supported by your family. And I don't have any family. So I had a really hard time. Monks also, we do have to buy things. We have to provide things. And so a lot of the time, I just have to go and ask the abbot to pay for things.
Really?
For example, a lot of trips for my visa, because I came on a tourist visa and then had to have it converted. And then I got 3 months and then I got 12 months. And so foolishly, I'd actually got rid of all my money which wasn't very much, didn't take very long, before I ordained, thinking that I wouldn't need money anymore. And then suddenly, I have to get a visa. They're like, well, off you go. They'll sign your form, but, off you go to Bangkok, buy and pay for it yourself. And so I had a difficult time, living really, really, austere existence up country. Fortunately, in the temple, I mean, you get fed, and I didn't go out of the temple very much. Once a month, I'd go out and buy a newspaper. That was my treat. I'd have a Bangkok Post, something to read in English.
Right. And if you went really crazy, you'd buy The Nation as well.
Because I had no English medium at all. And I thought I wanted to be a hermit. I still want to be a hermit. But it's a lot harder than people think. And just to not have someone to talk to, not have something to read. And, the one thing that really kept me alive, I think, was BBC World Service on shortwave radio.
Oh, yeah?
And I got this radio, this old Panasonic. And it's one of those with the dial, right? And you move the dial to slide between channels. But on shortwave, you move it a fraction of a millimeter and it jumps 20 stations.
Right, I remember. I had one of those when I was a kid too. It was fascinating.
So I would sit there for hours every day with my tongue clenched between my teeth, trying to manipulate this dial by microscopic proportions, trying to track BBC World Service down. And that was my only English input. It was hard, it's hard not having people to talk to. It's like not being able to just, buy something like ice cream.
Not that I'm saying my experience was as bad, but it's similar. When I first got to Bangkok, my first few months here were pretty awful. I didn't know anyone. I didn't understand the language. I didn't know where I was. I was constantly lost. Yeah. I had no money, and it sucked. And thankfully we learned how to deal with it. But
you get used to it.
Yeah. So what happens then when you ordained? Once you ordained, all right, now you're a monk. Everyone, off you go. What happens? Do you have a job placement board, or do you get assigned to a temple, or do you just choose where you want to go?
Well, I ordained with a whole bunch of Russians that come over for some weird reason. They're very strange people, Russians. They really are. And they'd come over.
This is not an official view of the Bangkok podcast.
And for example, we're sitting there one day and they talk as if they're about to tear each other's heads off. And they're only talking about the weather or something stupid, but they're very animated. So they're having this big animated conversation, and then I was just ignoring it. And we were eating condensed milk, one of the few things you can eat in the afternoon. And then they all went quiet and they pushed this one guy whose English was better to the front. And he said to me, "Venerable, we're having this discussion," in a Russian accent. "Can you tell us if it is true? In England, is it true you have a separate tap for the hot and the cold water?" What? I had to think about it, but it is true. And like, and they're off with this thing. So it was very strange. I was in this surreal. And actually, it is true. And I found out years later when internet arrived, and I looked it up. It's one of the things. Why do we have a separate tap for the hot and cold water? And the answer was the water comes from the national grid of water. Is drinkable, but hot water isn't drinkable because it's been in a hot water tank.
Really?
Yeah, so you want to separate your drinking from your non-drinking water. Hot water tanks have birds and bats and poo and all kinds of things in them. You're not supposed to drink that water.
Oh, interesting. We have double taps in Canada too. I never thought about it.
Well, I think everywhere in the world does, but somebody in England had this bright idea that, no, it might possibly cause somebody an illness somewhere.
Right. And for those that don't know, in Thailand, it's just one tap and it comes out
lukewarm.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what you got. Yeah.
Except in the cold season when your shower gets pretty icy.
Right. And showers have, if you don't know, most showers anyway, have individual heating elements that attach to the water that the water runs through before it comes out of the shower.
Well, maybe in your rich foreigner Bangkok world, but I can assure you in the temple world, we just get what comes out the tap.
Right. So what happens when you ordain then? Where did you go and why?
Well, you get, my temple, they insist that you study something. So the first thing that I was supposed to do was learn Thai, which I did, and I was reasonably good at. But then they make you take these exams, Dharma exams, and they're only simple things, like 10-year-old kids can pass them. It's called Naktam. And then also Pali language you're supposed to take. But the thought of doing these exams in written Thai, and not just regular Thai, but really flowery, kind of religious written Thai, is darn difficult. I know, like only about 4 or 5 Westerners that have ever done it, and boy, did they have a hard time.
Really, yeah.
So I was a little resistant, and every year at the beginning of the semester, everybody's forced to go and learn stuff. And then a whole bunch of people try clever methods to slip and slide and avoid. So I managed 4 years without joining the class to study. And I couldn't get away with it anymore. So what I did was I chose to go to university instead of studying Dharma in the temple. And so the abbot said that was okay. And I moved to Bangkok and I went through Thai university. And this is Mahajula. It's a monks' university. And it's there so that young monks who often are forced into the temple, and novices from the age of 10, 12 years old, they haven't chosen to be there. They don't want to be renunciate monastics. But they have no way out of the monastery. So the university will give them an education equal to regular people's education in society.
These universities are only for monks?
Lay people can join, but at that time there really weren't any lay people. And it's, our university is very poor and underfunded. I mean, it's a bottom of the league university. I mean, we do what we can. But then people will study for 4 years, and then the 5th year they work. And they get a work placement from the uni. And if they want to disrobe, then they get placed with a job in society so that they have a stepping stone to get out of the monkhood.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the idea is that we're putting into society well-trained Buddhist people who have done meditation, who have studied Dharma, been through university in a moral way with no drink, no drugs, no alcohol. So we're putting good people into society through the Buddhist University. That's the philosophy. So I did that. I was in Thai medium as well.
So you're learning in Thai.
Yeah, I studied psychology, a degree in psychology in Thai medium.
Interesting.
And that was interesting, because most Westerners, you come here and you're teachers, right? You'll get jobs. I came in as a student.
Right.
I was a 32-year-old man in a class full of 18-year-olds, and I was the dummy because I couldn't understand what was going on. It was very tough, I tell you. It was really a tough experience.
And you chose not to disrobe.
Yeah, of course. It's a monk's uni, so if you don't want to disrobe, you get placed for your work placement. You get placed in the temples, often the temples abroad. I mean, it's quite a good scheme.
Okay, so what happened to you?
Foreigners at that time didn't have to do the 1 year work, but we did have to wait that extra year before we got the degree. So then I took a master's degree, which lasted 12 years.
But you finished it.
I did. I finished my degree. You know, I wasn't motivated because as long as I am a student, I get a student visa. But as soon as I pass my degree, I lose my visa. So I had I didn't want to pass.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people, let's talk about this. A lot of people assume that as you're a foreigner and you're a monk in Thailand, you just live as a monk, but you have to deal with visas the same as everyone else does.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So what is there any special process for that, or is there any special visas?
You know, it changes with every government. There is what's called the National Buddhism Office. It used to be the Department of Religion under the Ministry of Education. And they will write a letter to recommend your visa. And you take that to Jengwatana with a letter from your abbot. And you get... It used to be a monk's visa. Now it's just an education visa. But we will get that for 10 years. So basically the Sangha society will support a monk to come in and live here and study here as a monk for 10 years. Okay.
But you still have to do 90-day reports?
You're supposed to do 90-day reports, and you have to do your visa every year, and you have to get a whole bunch of signatures from 4 different abbots to submit your paperwork to the Buddhism office. Then you wait 10 days to get the paperwork from that office that you can take to the immigration. But you've got to be careful in your timing because to get these 4 signatures, you've got to hope that these 4 guys are in when you take your forms around to be signed. It's a pain, but, you know, the Thai society does support foreigners coming to become a monk. And also the signatures are from the abbot, the local area head monk, the district head monk, and the provincial head monk. So if you've been misbehaving, there will be a report somewhere that goes to one of these senior monks, and then they will not extend your visa, or they will write a letter to the ministry.
Oh, really? So if you're caught out carousing or breaking rules or something like that, then someone will find out about it and you won't get 4 signatures.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good check and balance. I don't really know of any cases where it's had to go that far, but it's a good check and balance.
I'm going to go ahead and call that the Buddhism blockchain. So what is your daily life like then? You know, obviously you wake up early, you don't eat dinner. What does a monk do all day?
Well, you know, there's some monks are builders, some monks are scholars, some are teachers, some do admin, some just sit around and do absolutely nothing. You know, it's like a mini society, but it's quite a nice society in terms of, you know, in my building here, there's 220 rooms, but you can walk around in the evening. There's very little noise. There's no TVs on. There's no parties going on. There's nobody drinking and carousing. It's quite a nice, restrained, refined society mini society that we live in. Yeah.
It's like living in a really nice condo where everyone is respectful of the rules and goes to bed early.
Yeah, except our rooms are 3 meters by 4 meters.
Well, can't have everything, I guess. That's something that's interesting. I think a lot of Westerners feel that when you become a monk, you have like, you're sort of swept into this structured lifestyle where you have to do this and this and this. And I think in some ways you are, but I think a lot of foreigners would find it surprising when they visit a temple.
Yeah, but that's not Thai style, is it?
I don't know.
I mean, just look at Thai society. They're not kind of rigid, hard, regimented in any way. I mean, there's no more Mai Pen Rai society you find anywhere. A lot of people might be thinking of Japanese Zen, and there you get up at 3:45, at 3:47 you wash your face, at 3:50 you stand here, at 3:52 you spend 3 minutes 30 seconds eating your porridge. And I mean, they do have this kind of in some Zen temples, but no, Thais are very relaxed with it, and they allow people to have their own personality.
Yeah, and you're free to, like you said, you're free to do kind of what you want, your own thing, as long as you abide by the overarching rules.
Sure, as long as you behave.
Right. So they do like little cliques form with your buddies, and like this group of monks doesn't like that group of monks.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, just like any human society. And you're a bit sneery at other people, a bit suspicious, and a bit protective of your little corner. And these kind of things go on.
Do you have a best friend? Do you have an enemy? You have an arch enemy, a nemesis?
Yeah, things come and go. People like you for no reason. People dislike you for no reason. And all this kind of stuff goes on.
Sounds like high school.
I found that it's not necessarily the most friendly environment, but people are quite respectful and they give you your space so long as you don't misbehave in stupid ways.
So when a lot of people become monks and ordained as monks, I know it's hard to say, make a sweeping generalization, but what is usually or often the end goal? Am I going to stay forever? Most Thai men are expected to ordain at some point in their life, but it's only temporary. Right. I think once you move into a temple or are assigned to a temple, it's more long-term.
No, you would only ever ordain in a temple. But the reason that Thai men are supposed to ordain is in the old days, the only educated people were monks. In Bangkok and upcountry, nearly all schools are attached to temples.
Yeah.
There's 2,500 schoolgirls out of my window right here. I'm pointing, of course, on a podcast. That were attached to the temple. And I think it was the 1950s, the government, very wisely, in my opinion, split schooling off from temples. Monks shouldn't be teaching regular subjects. They can teach Dharma and religion, sure, but they shouldn't be teaching English and maths. And you should have proper qualified teachers to do that. So I think it was the 1950s that schooling was separated off from the monks, from the monasteries. There are still some little squabbles that go on between the schools and the monasteries. The schools like building things, and the monastery always says, "This is our land, remember that." So this kind of thing goes on. I thought that was a good idea of the Thai government at the time. Schools should be secular. Yeah, so Thai men would ordain as monks because if you were to be an educated person or a well-behaved, refined person, you were someone who used to be a monk. And that is called in Thai a tit. So if
monk.
If you've been a monk and you've disrobed, you are now tit, which actually is a shortened form of the word pandit, which in Thai is bandit. And so that became a tit, and pandit means a scholar, right? Like a racetrack pandit.
Okay.
So it's the same word we have in English. And so a Thai man was desirable if he'd been in the monkhood because he'd been more educated and refined. Of course, that warped now into an ordination for 3 days. After you leave university, 3 days of torment and hell in the temple, and then you're, officially ready for marriage. It's nice how these traditions come about, but
what makes someone decide to spend their entire life in the monkhood?
No, we don't have lifelong vows. So you can reordain as a monk up to 7 times in one lifetime. And so a lot of people just ordain for a couple of months and they like it and they stay. One monk down the corridor from me, he just stayed for, I think, about 17 years. And then said, "No, that's it now." And he disrobed and went off.
Wow.
to do something else. So we don't have lifelong vows. That's just not part of Buddhism.
So you can come and go, not come and go, but you can leave anytime you want.
I can disrobe, but there's a marked ceremony between entering and exiting the monkhood. And when you exit the monkhood, is a very clear divider that you are now no longer a monk. And then it takes, you have to go through the whole process again to reordain if you became a monk again. So, no, you can't just come and go. I can't chuck on my jeans and a T-shirt and go home for a weekend and come back to the temple.
But I mean, at any time you decided the life is over, like I want to transition into a civilian now, you can do that whenever you want.
If I win a lottery or something,
right.
It's a quicker way to end suffering than meditation. Then, I can disrobe. There's absolutely nothing stopping me. There was actually one monk. He was a monk for 16 years, and he was passing through, I think it was Kazakhstan, on his way back to Thailand, met a Kazakhstani girl, disrobed, got married to her, and 9 months later was back in Thailand reordaining as a monk, saying, no, married life.
Nope.
Nope.
He Control-Z'd that pretty quick.
So, of course, we like these kind of stories to tell between monks because it reminds us to, stay in the monkhood.
So when someone leaves the monkhood and becomes a normal Joe,
that's it.
Are they expected to follow roughly the same lifestyle, or not lifestyle, but moral guidelines, precepts?
Well, who would be expecting them to? The parents, the girlfriend? I mean, what? I mean,
I don't know. I guess, like, can you drink? Can you gamble?
Well, you're a layperson. I mean, there's no rules. Just whatever rules you follow, they follow.
I guess so. I was just pondering over in my mind.
No, the monkhood has no jurisdiction over you after you've left the monkhood.
Right.
Hopefully, you're a better person, a more refined person.
Right.
But no, you can't control that. It's funny, though, that a lot of monks in temples, because we live celibate with no contact between the sexes, and so a lot of old monks tell the young monks, like, oh, you don't want to go near women. Women are suffering. They're just a big bag of ball and chain and suffering. They'll ruin your life. They destroy you. They eat men and make your life hell. And then often you see these people like 10 years later, they've disrobed and got married. Right? So it's part of a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
That you want to, make... It's called asceticism in Freudian defense mechanisms, Anna Freud's defense mechanism. The claim that because you can't have something, you're better off being without it. Called asceticism. So you do see that. And then monks, they disrobe when they get married. A lot of people have had their life married and then they become a monk. My own Upajjhaya, who gave me ordination, he got ordained at 56. He was already a meditation master, but he wanted his children and his wife to be set up financially before he entered into the monkhood. So there are different ways you can do it.
On a recent show, we had my friend Sam on as a guest, she's Australian and she's married to a Thai man. And after they had been married for a few years, he was ordained for a short while, and they had to get quote unquote divorced when he entered the monkhood. I think it was only like ceremonially, but when he came out, they had to get quote unquote married again.
Okay.
So it's sort of a temporary
I've never seen
break.
that before. But my Upajjhaya, his wife, obviously he's a monk, and he didn't want to call her his wife, but she was his wife and they were still married. So he would call her Ubatag, which means sponsor. So he said, my sponsor's coming to visit. My sponsor is this. And that was his wife. And they still had a very close relationship, in the right way. Funny thing is, though, when you ordain, if you have a girlfriend, or I guess a wife, in the ceremony of the ordination, you circumambulate the hall 3 times.
You walk around.
Yeah.
I didn't dumb it down.
Walk around.
Circumambulate. Who uses that?
And I think the father carries the bowl because that's your living. The mother carries your robes. your brother carries your razor or something like that, but your girlfriend carries your pillow. So she walks around in this procession with the family, and she carries your pillow because at night you're going to hug the pillow instead of her.
Ah, interesting.
I thought it was cute. A lot of these Thai traditions are really cute stories.
Yeah. So what time do you wake up in the morning?
God, whenever I want.
Yeah, it's no
Few
structure.
people with jobs that have to get up at certain times.
Yeah, you're making a pretty good case here. I
Yeah.
think I might jettison it all and come over here.
I have no schedule. I mean, I can get up at 2 in the morning. I can get up at 10 o'clock. I mean, I go to sleep when I want. I have no bed, you see, in my room. I have no bed. So when I want to sleep, I just sleep right there and then.
So much
And then
space for activities.
Then I just get up. And so it's pretty easy going lifestyle. Of course, there are ceremonies and things that certain times of the day that you may have to join.
Like what?
We have all kinds of chanting things that some are optional, some are mandatory. We have ceremonies, reciting the monk's rule book every 2 weeks. We're supposed to turn up for that. Right. People's birthdays, they invite us. We do Dharma talks. I mean, there's plenty going on. Most people, they find a role. Not many people really like to live in a temple without any role.
Right. And you eat just before noon. You can't eat after noon. No dinner.
I don't eat dinner. I eat for quarter of the day, sun up to midday.
Sun up to midday.
So it's quarter of the day. That's okay.
Well,
intermittent fasting is
that's
good
subjective. Yeah, I'm trying intermittent fasting, and I found it's not so bad.
Very good for you. Controls your cholesterol and triglycerides.
All I need now is a couple of orange robes and
You've got the
change in
shaved head.
lifestyle.
You've got the bald head there.
Yeah, let me ask my wife first. I don't think she'd appreciate being a sponsor. I think she likes being a wife.
She might be quite happy to get you out of the way for a while.
Don't start putting ideas out there.
Yeah, she knows where you are. She knows you're being controlled and somebody looking after you. Someone in charge of you. She feels she can do her own thing.
Like I said, you're making a pretty good case here for being a monk. I can come and do my own thing in my own little room. And
a tricky thing is like the food, for example. Temple food, depending on your temple, is often not very good. So it's hard not getting the kind of food that you want to eat. People don't think about this. You think that would be easy. You think, well, if I go a day without pizza, I don't cry about it. But when you go months without eating the kind of things that you want, that actually grinds you down a bit.
this is the story you told in our alms episode where you were talking about that can of Coke that you saw. Yeah. So you don't have to do alms every day. It's just whenever you...
People are always asking what have to, when you have to get up, do you have to go here? You don't have to do anything.
Well, I have to go to work. I have to...
There's some things that we have to not do. But alms round, I mean, we can go or not go. My own temple has a policy of not going outside the temple on alms round. However, if I wanted to, I could. I mean, there's no Nazi police out there checking my ID saying you can't go alms round. But if I want to, I can. And many monks do on the special days.
Right.
Because a lot of lay people are out making offerings. So monks go out and do the alms round. It's pretty rare because people just give you noodles and bottles of water and uncooked rice, which we're not supposed to accept. So you wouldn't usually eat the food that you get on the alms round.
Well, last question then. You are at Wat Pak Nam Pasicharun, is that the name? And it's a beautiful temple. I really like being here. There's a beautiful stupa that you can look at, and there's a...
Stupa's terrible.
The glass one?
It's terrible.
It's gorgeous.
Now we have all these foreigners coming in every day to look at it. It used to be nice and peaceful here. And now we have troops and troops of Chinese tourists in elephant pants.
Right, well...
Somewhere on a website in China it says that if you visit temples in Thailand, you have to wear cheap elephant pants.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, well, maybe they've been listening to the podcast and they know where to go. But the latest addition to the temple is a gigantic statue of the Buddha outside.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I've been telling everyone it's a statue of me. That's the nose. It has a very nice, elegant nose.
Yeah, you don't have the little curly bun hair things.
I mean, why do... There's a big question because these things cost money. And there's a question whether the money is better spent elsewhere.
That was going to be my question, yeah.
So we built a giant jetty in the car park, and it's supposed to have a multi-story car park in the base of it and the jetty on top, but we couldn't get planning permission. So it wound up being a 80-meter jetty, which is visible from a long, long way around. And I think the cost was 190 million baht. And there's a question of whether that, I mean, we didn't need it. We don't need the building for anything. People already come to the temple. We don't need an attraction. On the other hand, it is and so I was actually against it. Obviously, absolutely nobody in this temple would listen to me. So whether I'm against it or not.
Why not? There's a giant statue of you outside. Don't they know?
But after, there was two arguments. One is the money that was raised to build it, people had donated for the jetty. It's not like there's 190 million baht sat in the bank and we could buy kidney machines for the hospital or this or that. No, people gave the money to build that building. So in my view, it's not right to divert the money into other purposes. But after it was built, I noticed that people use it. I mean, now there are hordes and hordes of people that come and they spend an hour, 4 hours an afternoon. They walk around. I mean, when you come to the temple, you have to have something to do, something to look at. So I've actually come round to the idea that these things are quite useful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and disagree with you.
Then they built this giant Buddha statue right in front of the jetty, but unfortunately the statue points away from the jetty because I think it's supposed to face east. But what that means is you climb up the jetty and you only get a view of the back of the Buddha's head, which is a shame, in my view. But people like it. This is a place of faith. This is, the monuments of a civilization. You look around you and you see a tower that's devoted to a bank, or Estee Lauder have these huge offices. And why shouldn't some of the buildings be to the thing that culturally is most important? So,
okay, I guess so. I mean, Kasakhon Bank could just as easily say we're going to raise 100 million baht for schools in Thailand as a temple could, but they don't. Yeah, all right. It's a complicated issue, but
so yeah, if you're anywhere around Thonburi, you should be able to see our big golden Buddha and a white jetty sat behind him in Wat Pak Nam.
Right. Well, we're going to have to rename this the Phra Pandit Temple pretty soon. Giant statue of the man outside. Thank you for coming on the show again, Phra Pandit.
Okay.
We always appreciate your insights.
Cool.
I'm really fascinated with meditation and yoga, and I've experimented with both, and I would love to take meditation more seriously. And I've occasionally considered becoming a monk for like a few months. It's kind of a Thai thing, but to be honest, when I hear stuff like this interview, or when I really hear about a monk's lifestyle, I don't think I could do it, man.
I don't think I could either. And Phra Pandit is many times over the years we've hung out and eaten together and sat down for interviews. He's always telling me to do meditation, and I'm like, I don't know if I can. He's like, of course you can. Anyone can. But it's on me. I'm a little bit too scared. I'm a little bit nervous to try it. I'm a little bit scared, trepidatious to give up my creature comforts.
I could, like I said, I could do. I've done a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I think I can do meditation. It's just the whole monk lifestyle. I don't know. It's like it's really a different life. I mean, really, really, really different.
Yeah, man. I've told the story a lot of times. I came to Thailand with a friend of mine, and one of us left immediately and one of us thrived. Being a monk is much the same. It's probably not for everyone, but if you can do it, then you'd be like Phra Pandit and you're here for 20 years, just like you and I are.
It's kind of interesting that for Thai guys, it's a tradition and still pretty common to become a monk for like 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. I kind of like that tradition, I think it's cool. Just to do it. I mean, the bottom line is we could probably survive a month or two,
I'm sure we could survive. Whether we enjoy it, it's a whole different thing.
Right.
Well, many thanks to Phra Pandit for coming on again. He is our most returningest guest, And he keeps saying that he's going to move away from Thailand pretty soon, maybe to Singapore, maybe to Australia, but I'm not sure what's going to end up with that. But thanks to the power of the internets, we'll probably have many more shows, hopefully have many more shows with him in the future.
You know, when I hear stuff like that, I always feel kind of conflicted because, a guy like Phra Pandit, you know him way better than I do, but he's such an interesting guy, and we've had him on the podcast so much. I don't want him to leave, so I kind of hope his future plans don't work out.
Selfishly, yeah.
I want him to be
what a
happy.
Shame.
Oh, what a shame you're stuck in Thailand.
You
know what I mean?
It's to enlighten us.
Yeah, or like this has happened with friends of mine who've left Thailand, and I secretly I kind of hope things don't work out and they come back.
Like, see, I chose the right path. You are the loser. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. And this week it is Ed's turn.
All right, Greg, question for you. Classic Thai thing. Ooh. I remember I don't know, I'm sure if I remember the exact first time, but I remember when I first got here, this really messed me up, and I've got a strong opinion about this. So, Greg, what do you think about the unique way that Thai people use rubber bands to tie things closed?
That's funny. This is something that I've thought about doing for love, loathe, or live with. Man, that's an interesting one because I've thought about making a joke somehow about, like, if there was a rubber band Olympics, like Thailand would just get gold medals across the board.
Now, Greg, do you want to try to explain to our listeners how Thai people use rubber bands, or am I going to have to stumble through it?
Well, I mean, when you go and buy something of coffee or food or something like that at some stall, they usually put it in a plastic bag, and they tie the plastic bag with this almost imperceptible, deft whirring of their hands with a rubber band. And they put it on, and then they go, and they give you the bag, and it's sealed tight. And
right.
They do it in a way that I still don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how they do it, but let me see if I can explain it. So for me, as a Westerner, when I seal something with a rubber band, it's just I put the rubber band around it, I twist the rubber band, loop it over again, twist the rubber band, loop it over again, twist the rubber band, loop it over again. Too. And it's a very simple, it's just concentric circles.
Same, yeah.
But what Thai people do is somehow they almost use the rubber band as a knot. So they do loop it around, but then it's also knotted in some way. So it's not concentric circles. So I don't want to give my opinion. Just what do you think about this? So do you like it or not like it? It's definitely different from what we do back home.
It's, I love it with a caveat. I love it because it's so unique and interesting. And the first time you see it as a Westerner, you think it's really strange and interesting. So I love it for that. It does a great job of holding the food together. But until I loathe it when I have to undo it and someone's really good at it. And I also loathe at the end of a meal having, like 5 or 6 plastic bags and 5 or 8 or 10 rubber bands that are just, useless to me and going in the trash. I think it's kind of a waste. So it's an interesting mix here. So I love it, but I also loathe it.
Well, it's fascinating that you said that. It's fascinating because, you and I have never talked about this before,
no.
But my take is very similar. So you remember my buddy Dan, the economist who was on our show.
Right.
So years ago when he was living here, probably 15 years ago when he was living here, he and I had a conversation about the rubber bands. And I remember this because he said it very clearly. He said the thing about the way Thai people use rubber bands is that when they work, it's genius. Because if you understand how it's tied, you can unwrap it much easier than like a Western rubber band. Because the Western rubber band is wrapped around and around and around and around to make it tight.
Right.
And so when it's the Western way, when it's tight, it's quite hard to get it off.
Right.
But the Thai way, if you understand how it's looped, like you unloop it once and then it just opens up, and
that's happened a few times, probably accidentally.
Right. But that's how it's supposed to work. So he had a good point that like when it works, it's just like genius and it's clearly better than the way we do it. But the problem is like for us idiots, it's like we don't understand how it's. So for me, like 80% of the time, it's harder to get their damn rubber band off.
We're gonna have to.
It's a really weird thing. It's a really weird thing. It's like when it works, it's great, but when it doesn't work, it sucks.
We're gonna have to make like a 2001 expat version where there's like instead of a monolith, there's a big plastic bag, and me and Ed are like swatting at it with bones and stuff, trying to get it to open.
It's so funny. We got to get a Thai person on the show to explain to us how to untie the damn rubber bands.
I should ask my wife. Like, how do I do this? It's better to ask my mother-in-law.
What's the secret? I mean, because sometimes those rubber bands come off like magically, and I'm like, this is genius.
Yeah.
But then I don't really understand how it's tied, and so half the time I'm struggling with it more than I would a Western one. So I love it, but like you, it's like I hate it.
It's interesting. I think this is our first dual love, loathe, loathe.
That's right. That's exactly right. You said it exactly right. It's like I kind of both love it, but I also hate it.
Interesting. All right. Good one. Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Kun Arm for lending us his support at the show shadow level. And Greg, what did you find out about Arm?
Well, I ended up chatting with Kun Arm over a few emails, and I'll tell you, Ed, he sounds like an ultra decent dude, the type of patron that we here at Bangkok Podcast Intergalactic Headquarters love to have in our little family. Now, Arm has quite the story, Ed. Check this out. He lived in Bangkok until he was 12, and then he moved to Massachusetts, where he assimilated into American culture pretty quickly, but there were a few hiccups. I love hearing stories like this about people or Thai people, anyone really, who are telling me interesting things about fitting into my culture, which is sort of why we started the show, interesting things about foreigners trying to fit into Thai culture. But check this out. He said as soon as he got into the States, he said he quickly grew tired of people going, "Hey, Arm, how's your leg?" Which is such a Western joke to say.
That's pretty damn funny. I like that.
And he also wanted to play football, but when he showed up, he saw a bunch of dudes dressed in huge shoulder pads with helmets on. So, of course, he was actually looking to play soccer.
Funny. That could turn out pretty bad.
Yeah, no kidding. You show up with a jersey and a pair of shorts to an American football match, you're not going to fare too well.
That's right.
And he was also super happy to eat, in his words, a real amazing hamburger for the first time. He says he prefers In-N-Out Burger. And he also said, quote, "Wow, the police are really scary here."
I would agree. They definitely can be pretty scary.
That's right. And check this out. Arm also said he did his graduate thesis paper at Northeastern University on decriminalization of marijuana in 2012.
Oh, wow. So that was very timely.
Yeah, no doubt. And he said he was also in a rock band called TTB. You have any idea what TTB stands for?
I do not.
No, it stands for Thai Town Boston.
Ooh, love it. I love it.
He said they were the number one Thai band in Boston, but he said they were also the only Thai band in Boston.
I have many accolades like that.
That's right. And Arm was saying also that he likes to listen to the show because he had to get used to reverse culture shock coming back into Thailand, especially driving. And he works for his family real estate business here in Thonburi, so he's one of our Thonburi boys.
Absolutely. Great guy.
Yeah. So I think that Arm, when we have our next big meetup, our big blowout post-corona meetup, whenever that is, it's going to be a big one. Arm, I think you should lead the entertainment for the night, man. I think you should whip out your guitar or trumpet or drums. I don't know what kind of music they played. I assume it was a pretty thrash and rock band. And we'll dance and drink and sing the night away to Arm playing songs all night long.
We can rock to some TTB.
TTB. I was saying I'm going to change it to
Thai Town Bangkok.
Thai Town Bangkok. It's kind of silly. Maybe TTP, Thai Town Podcast or something like that.
Yeah, we'll work on the name.
Yeah, but Arm, thanks very much. And also one more thing about Arm, he's married and he wants to name his kids Luke and Leia, but he's not sure his wife will let him do that. But I think it's a cool idea.
I'm sure you would, Greg.
Well, Arm, thank you so much, man. Thank you for your support. Welcome back to your home country. We're glad you like listening to the show. And what do they got in Boston? What kind of food they got in Boston? Baked beans?
They got clam chowder.
Clam chowder? All right, well, maybe, Arm, you can we use the recipe you learned when you were in university. Cook us up some clam chowder one time. We'll have some beers and some clam chowder and have a gay old time. Thanks, man. We appreciate your support, and we're looking forward to meeting you at the next meetup.
Thanks, Arm. All right, a final thanks to our patrons who help keep the show ad-free. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
That's right. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can chat with us online or even reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg, of course. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you back here next week. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll talk to you soon.
No doubt. Hold on, let me pour a drink.
Oh, all right.
So there's no glung, 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 glung on the recording.
Okay.
All right.
Sawadee.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I was just giving you the green light. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, man.